There is a wall of fur in front of you, and it is breathing 6 tons of muscle and tusk, maybe more, tusks longer than you are tall, curving up toward a sky the color of cold iron. You can smell the wet grass on its breath, and the only thing in your hands is a wooden shaft tipped with a sharp flake of stone. You are not going to run. Running is how you die. For most of the last 100,000 years, this was not a nightmare, it was a job. But out on the frozen plains of Ice Age, Europe and Siberia, your ancestors walked toward the largest land animals of their world on purpose, and came home with enough meat to carry a whole camp to the dark half of the year. One mammoth could give well over a ton of food. Fat, muscle, marrow, hide, bone. A single kill could keep a band of people alive for weeks. The question is not whether they did it, the proof is in the ground. Stone points snapped off inside the ribs of animals that died before the last ice pulled back. There is even one mammoth locked in Siberian ice for tens of thousands of years that still carries the exact mark of how it died. Tying to that one, it rewrites the whole story. The real question is how? How does an animal like you, soft and slow and barely 200 pounds, kill something the size of a delivery truck? Start with everything you cannot do. You cannot outrun it. You cannot overpower it. One swing of that trunk could snap every rib in your chest, and a single foot coming down turns you into a stain in the snow. You have no claws, no armor. Your teeth are a joke. What you have is a stick in each other. Here is where the story turns strange. For a long time, people assumed the answer had to be distance. Throw enough spears from far enough away, the thinking went, and eventually the giant bleeds out clean. Safe, sensible. Your ancestors even had the tool for it. A spear thrower, a carved hook of antler that worked like an extra joint in the arm, flinging a light dart faster and farther than any bare hand could manage. The evidence says distance was not enough. The evidence says that to actually kill it, you had to get close. Insanely, unforgivably close. In the 1980s, an archaeologist named George Frison went looking for exactly how close. Frison had spent his life studying the stone weapons of the first Americans, the fluted spearheads now called Clovis points, thin leaf-shaped blades of chipped stone, some of them found lying inside the ribcages of mammoths that died more than 13,000 years ago. He wanted to know whether a weapon like that could really bring down something so huge. So working with elephants that were already being culled in Zimbabwe, he tested it on the closest living stand-in he could find. What he learned was humbling a stone-tipped spear, thrown from a distance, mostly failed. It lost speed, skidded off the thick hide, or buried itself in muscle without reaching anything that mattered. But a spear driven in by hand, thrust hard between the ribs at close range, slid through and reached the lungs and the great vessels of the chest. The weapon worked, but only when the person holding it was near enough to touch the animal. Sit with that for a second. To feed the people you love, you had to walk up to a living mountain, close enough that its shadow fell over you, and push a spear into it with your own arms. So picture the real thing. It is late autumn on the Mammoth steppe, a vast cold grassland that once ran from Spain to the far edge of Siberia. The light is thin. Your group has been tracking a small herd for 2 days, reading the dung, the bent grass, the deep brown prints slowly filling with meltwater. You are not alone, and this is the part that matters most. There are maybe 8 or 10 of you, and you have done this before, and every one of you knows the plan without a single word spoken. Some move wide to turn the animal, some crouch low in the grass and wait. Nobody wants a fair fight. The whole idea is to cut one mammoth, an old one or a young one, away from the herd. And to trap it somewhere its size becomes a weakness. Soft ground, a cut bank, a patch of bog where those enormous feet sink and slow. Then you close in. The noise must have been unbearable. The scream of a cornered animal that big, the wet thunder of its feet, someone yelling. And through all of it, you step inside the reach of the trunk, set your feet and drive the spear up into the belly and wrench it free, and do it again while the others strike from the far side. It ends in a few minutes, or it does not end well at all. There was never a safe version of this, and that is the secret hiding inside the word insane. The weapon was never really the spear. The weapon was the group. No lone human ever killed a mammoth. It was patience and shared knowledge and total trust. 10 people moving like one creature against a bigger one that brought the giant down. The stone point was only the last inch of a machine built entirely out of cooperation now. That mammoth in the ice in 2012. On a frozen bluff above a bay in the Siberian Arctic, the body of a young male mammoth came out of the ground almost whole. A team led by the Russian scientist Vladimir Pitul studied it and found wounds that no falling rock and no hungry lion could explain: cracked ribs, a tusk with a piece deliberately cut out of it, as though someone had started stripping the ivory. Most telling of all, a neat dent in the cheekbone right beside the base of the trunk, precisely where a hunter thrusting a spear up at the animal's face would land the blow. That mammoth died around 45,000 years ago. Its injuries shoved the story of humans in the frozen Arctic back by thousands of years. All at once, someone stood in that killing cold, long before farming, long before the first written word, and drove a spear into the face of a mammoth. And you can still see the mark today. It was not a fluke. It was a way of life. In southern Poland, at a place called Kraków-Spa, archaeologists have uncovered one of the largest piles of mammoth bone anywhere in Europe. The scattered remains of dozens of animals gathered in a single spot. Researchers there, among them Pio Turovotau, have described a sliver of flint weapon still lodged inside a mammoth bone, a stone point that flew and struck and stayed. Half a world away at the Naco site in Arizona, one mammoth was found with 8 Clovis spear points scattered through its skeleton. 8. That is not one lucky throw. That is a planned attack that got in close and refused to quit. But here is the part almost everyone forgets. The deadliest moment of a mammoth hunt may not have been the kill at all. It was everything after. Picture several tons of meat lying in the open on a frozen plain. You have a day, maybe 2, before it rots or freezes into rock, and you are not the only hungry thing out here. Cave lions, giant hyenas, wolves, every predator for miles can smell what you just made. So the work starts immediately, brutal and fast, sawing through hide as thick as a car tire, hauling meat, cracking the long bones for the rich marrow inside. All of it a race against the cold, the dark, and the shapes circling at the edge of your vision. And then, having risked everything, your ancestors did something that still stops archaeologists in their tracks. They used the rest. At a site called Mezhyrich in Ukraine, people around 15,000 years ago built homes out of mammoths. Not near them, out of them. Walls of stacked jawbones, roofs braced with curved tusks. A single one of these shelters used the bones of dozens of animals. Hundreds of pieces locked together into a dome that held firm against the Ice Age wind. Almost nothing was thrown away. The animal that could have killed you became your food, your tools, your fuel, and in the end, your house. You almost certainly never stand in front of a mammoth. But what those hunts built is still sitting inside you. Think about the last time you faced something far bigger than yourself. A crowd, a crisis, a room where everything hung on the next few minutes. Your heart slammed against your ribs, your vision pulled tight to a single point. Time went strange and slow. That surge is not a malfunction. It is the very machinery that once let a 200-pound animal walk toward 6 tons of tusk and hold its ground, doomed over tens of thousands of years of standing in the cold beside people it trusted, facing the impossible together. You are built to do hard things in a group, to read the people next to you without speaking, to step toward the danger instead of away from it when the ones you love are counting on you. That is not some modern virtue you picked up. It is the oldest thing you own. So go back to the wall of fur, breathing slow in the cold. 6 tons of muscle and tusk, and one small person with a stick refusing to run. It was never insane. It was the most human thing your ancestors ever did. And the nerve it took is still yours, folded up and waiting for the moment something enormous steps in front of you. If the world you came from feels a little closer now, that's exactly the point. Subscribe, and every week we'll uncover another piece of who you used to be.